welcome to Seismic Cinema. I am your host, Doc Brown, aka James, and tonight we have got Colin, aka Goldie Wilson. How you doing?
Hi, good, thanks. How are you?
Aye, not bad, mate. I nearly never made it tonight, though. There's been a change in the climate change aspect in the West Coast, so I nearly never made it. But thankfully, I got there in the end. All good, man.
Oh well, you couldn't resist, eh?
I couldn't resist. No, I had to put it in there. I'll leave that though for Seismic Soccer, which will be in a couple of weeks' time. So before I go into tonight's review of Back to the Future, or during the day, morning, whenever you listen to this podcast, I'm going to do a couple of housekeeping things. So you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can also watch and listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else that you find or listen to your podcasts. Now, I've got a microphone now, thanks to our good friend Craig at What's the Script. But we need to help, or you need to help rather, hopefully, buy Gary a microphone. And you can do that by going to buymeacoffee.com/seismic cinema. And all proceeds will go towards Gary's microphone. So he would be very much appreciative of all of that.
The funniest thing is Gary doesn't even know he's got a fundraising campaign.
Well, you'll find out in Seismic Soccer when or whoever's hosting that. We are also part of the PodPack Collective. There are 10 members there now, all of the indie podcasts around. If you want to find out who's part of that, because there's quite a few to mention, if you go to Twitter or X, whatever you call it now, and if you search PodPack Collective, you will find a great wee collective there of all the indie podcasts that we're trying to promote and help. So I check them out. We've had a couple of collaborations with them in the past, so you might have checked them out or heard them before, but please do check them out, guys. Right, okay. So tonight we are reviewing Back to the Future, Part 1. And before I go into your kind of history and all that, Colin, I am going to go on to Twitter, because we did put a wee kind of shout out of thoughts, comments, opinions on it. So I'm just going to go and look at them quickly. So just ask for anybody on Twitter if they had any comments, etc. We had We Needed Roads podcast, who we had on for Seismic Soccer 6. And of course, with the name We Needed Roads podcast, it's quite influenced on Back to the Future. So they said, we named our podcast after it, so it's a massive influence, and the fact the creators have so well maintained its legacy and shut down any attempts at sequels or reboots, which I've got to agree with. I couldn't imagine a reboot or a sequel of these series of films. Our good friend at What's the Script, Craig, he says it's cinematic royalty, timeless, pardon the pun. I think he meant that. One of the best franchises ever. He still quotes Great Scott, Hello McFly, and 1.21 gigawatts, and many, many more. I'll go into the impressions later on. And he said, I'll never want a DeLorean. I'll never not want a DeLorean. Okay, so just come back out of that there. Casting views, who are also part of the PodPack Collective. Absolutely love this film. Michael J. Fox and Thomas Wilson are brilliant in their roles, and also love the fact that the idea came from Bob Gale looking at his father's yearbook and wondering if they'd ever been friends. Stu World Order. Objectively, great flick. What can I say that hasn't already been said, except maybe that Part 3 is better than Part 2? Well, I know we're not discussing those films at the moment, Colin, but I have got to agree with that.
I'm not revealing anything just yet.
Okay, no problem. Next to the aisle, still one of my favourite films ever, an amazing script enhanced by lighting and the bottle performances of Fox and Lloyd. Huey Lewis at the height of his popularity adds cash to it, and Sylvester's score is an all-timer.
That's a phrase I really like. It's quite a recent one, what was it? The lightning in the bottle.
Aye.
I quite like that phrase.
Aye, me too. Right, there's also got, because I'm going to say this wrong, I apologise. Kazuki Kimura Fans USA. Back to the Future is exciting, but also has a warm sense of nostalgia. It's still quoted in my house, especially Biff's one-liners like "Hello, hello, anybody home?" and Marty's "This is heavy." And my dad has jokingly called us slackers since the 80s. Other quotes, there's quite a lot here.
The price of success.
Yeah, other quotes just randomly come to mind all the time. I love the film's concept of time travel, showing how everything could be altered, and we can see the changes in real time. The music is also excellent. The 50s songs are great. The power of love is fantastic. It's a fantastic theme for Marty, and how the movie score is rousing and a bit mystical. Indeed, I agree. We've got Jay. He says, I love the movie, one of the best time travel movies of all time, but it does have flaws. One, every other time travel movie out there, they are told not to change anything, so there's no catastrophes in the future. Well, not here. He doesn't give a F as long as it doesn't see himself.
Clearly, Paul's not here. That slot would have been filled in there.
No. So yeah, that is it, man. That was the interactions on Twitter. So thanks very much, folks, for that. And of course, we did say we give you a shout out on the pod. So there you have it.
It's really. I love that people engage with the posts and give their views. It really adds a wee bit of extra flavour to the reviews.
No, definitely, and it's quite good to actually hear other people's opinions as well, even though I might not agree with them as such in certain aspects of certain comments for the films, whatever. But it's good to kind of hear other people's thoughts and opinions and things. So keep them coming, guys. We much appreciate it. So I was going to do in fact, I'm not going to. I'm going to go back right into the film. So, as I said, Back to the Future. It was released in 1985. The director was Robert Zemeckis, written by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale. It stars Michael J. Fox as Marty, Christopher Lloyd as Doc, Leah Thompson, sure it is, as Lorraine, Crispin Glover as George, and Tom Wilson as Biff. The budget was 19 million estimated, and it made back an estimated 385 million. So that's decent, isn't it? Isn't it?
Was that a question? Yeah.
Yes.
I thought it was a statement. No, it's interesting because we do that every week now, and that's probably the highest box office one we've maybe done.
Anyway. Titanic probably did better than that.
It's just whether we were actually given the statistics at that time. I can't remember.
Yeah, we did. I hosted it, so we definitely did.
Oh well, sorted.
Titanic is obviously a pod episode we did a few weeks back, guys. So we'll check that out also. I'm going to give a short synopsis. I mean, I think most people have seen this film. I think if you haven't, then it's criminal. And
get in your time machine.
You should get jail time for that. So I tried to kind of cut this down as much as I could, mate. So the story follows a teenager, Marty McFly, who was accidentally sent back in time to 1955 in a time-travelling DeLorean invented by friend Dr. Emmett Brown. In 1955, Marty encounters a younger version of his parents and accidentally disrupts the sequence of events that lead to their marriage, putting his own existence at risk. To ensure his own birth and find a way back to 1985, Marty must help his parents to fall in love while avoiding altering the timeline. Along the way, he faces various challenges, including encounters with his teenage father and the local bully, Biff Tannen. As the clock ticks, Marty races against time to set things right and return back to his era before it's too late. So that's pretty much us finished now, mate. We could go pack up and go home.
I wasn't
Oh,
sure what age
red.
Michael J. Fox was, but I actually looked it up. He was 24, I think, when he was in this.
Oh, right. I thought you said you didn't know who he was. I was like,
Oh
what?
no, I didn't know
What age he
what
was?
I was interested to see what age he was.
Aye. Okay, he's obviously, this is the role that he's most famous for, I'd say. Obviously, he's done cameos, and obviously, we know he struggles at the moment in time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
He's got quite a prominent role as a lawyer in a show called The Good Wife that I really enjoyed. It pops up in that quite a
another
lot.
lawyer programme. We discussed this last week.
I love my lawyer shows, yeah.
He's also in Scrubs as well, mate.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
He's also in Scrubs as well. Anyway, right, so before we go into the main course, as you call it, I want to know, what is your history with the film, Colin? When was the first time you seen it? Did you enjoy it this time around? Have you always enjoyed it? So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so this came out 6 years before I was born. I didn't actually see it for the first time. It wasn't like when I grew up with or anything. I didn't really watch it for the first time. I reckon it was about 2011, 2012. That's a kind of vague recollection. And I remember, also that was quite a while ago now, but I remember enjoying it at the time. And I think I've maybe seen it one other time since then, but I obviously watched it in great detail for the podcast. And it's obviously massive in popular culture. It's one you hear about, see about all the time. It's one I'll probably, having watched it this time round, go back to more. But I've got a big confession to make. I might be facing a wee bit of a jail sentence here. I've not actually seen part 2 or 3.
Great Scott.
However, I think that gives a wee interesting perspective, maybe, because there might be things that you think about the film that maybe come up in the sequels. However, I did commit to the part. I bought the trilogy. I just didn't have time to watch all 3 this week, so I'll check out 2 and 3, and I'll let you know my thoughts further down the line.
Aye, that's surprising actually that you've not seen 2 and 3.
Do you know this? Do you know, like, there's this big thing, like, there's so many sequels that have failed, and, like, for example, we reviewed Starship Troopers recently, and I've heard the sequels for that aren't even worth watching. So I didn't actually learn that they were so loved, the second and third one of this, until I started doing more research for this podcast. So I will definitely check them out at some point.
I think they're vastly thought of, you know what I mean? Okay, 3 more than 2. But no, that's not to say 2 is not a good film. It is a good film, mate, I think, but 3 is better.
You very rarely find a franchise where people like the sequels. This doesn't happen very often.
Nah, it doesn't. There's also a couple that come to mind. I mean, being the Dark Knight trilogy, I think that's up there. Anyway, for me, anyway, I watched it. Well, came out in 1985, which the year I was born. I didn't watch it maybe until, I don't know, mate, to be honest with you, but I remember it like being on the TV all the time, like especially at Christmas time. It would always be on the TV, and every year or whenever it was on, I would just watch it. To the point where I was collecting my DVDs and whatever. I went through a phase of when I was younger collecting DVDs, going into the town and just kind of buying box sets and whatever. And this is one of the first box sets that I bought. So when I got it, it was easily on 3 or 4 times a year, and I would just binge the full thing. So 1, 2, and 3. But it's a great movie, mate. Do you know what I mean? So definitely, if you've not checked it out, I would go and get it. I don't think it was, I had it in DVD, mate, anyway, so I had it, but you had to go and buy it as well, didn't you? So
yeah, I bought it off Amazon. Do you think, like, it's a film that easily could have been an individual entry? Like, it had worked as a standalone, I'd have thought.
Oh, definitely.
As well, yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, I didn't do my digging as much, but I mean, he could have left it as it is, and then, but obviously with the ending, we'll come on to that.
Aye, but if you took the end scene out, then it easily would have been.
Aye. Right, so that's your introduction. That's your history of the film, mate. So what I want to do, I want us to kind of talk, not talk about every character because we'll be here all day. But I mean, we'll take a couple of characters. So I want to get your thoughts on Marty McFly and Doc Brown in particular, those two. And what did you think about the chemistry between them?
Okay, so start with Marty then.
Go for it.
He's quite cocky at the start, isn't he?
Aye, I would say so.
He's very confident. He's got the girl. He's not a particularly great student. He's always kind of rocking up late, and I think with our professions, would be unsure about our relationship with that guy. But he's got a great spirit about him. He's really he's into his music, but despite his kind of bravado, he's quite kind of unsure of his music a wee bit because they're getting a lot of kind of knockbacks at like the audition at the school near the start as well.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously his kind of like home life isn't particularly great. In the kind of first sequence, there's his mum and dad don't seem to have a lot of love for each other, and there doesn't seem to be a great relationship with the brothers and sisters. So that's possibly or probably what led to the strong relationship he's got with Doc Brown. I would have thought. I like their dynamic because unless I'm forgetting something, it doesn't really explain how they came to be. They just are, and it works. It would be nice. I don't know if you maybe in the sequels find out more about kind of how they got to that stage, but I don't think you need it. I think it was still a good dynamic.
Aye, I mean Marty's like the typical teenager, isn't he? I mean he's late to to school, and he, like you say, he is quite cocky. He's definitely got a bravado about him. He's got a passion for music. He's obviously skateboarding. Not that we would be skateboarding when we were younger, but we would have our bikes
I had
a
skateboard. I wasn't very good at it, but
oh, did you?
I was really into the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games when I was a kid.
They were class, weren't they? The music were class in those games. I thought was the skateboard, was that influenced by Bart Simpson by any chance?
I think it was more Tony Hawk.
Tony Hawk, all right.
But obviously a big Simpsons fan as well. Check out one of our recent podcasts.
Yep. Where was I? You don't really know how they know each other, but you do know that Marty's home life isn't great. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things wrong there, a lot of things happening, and you kind of see it's comfort in Doc Brown. I think kind of knows that hanging a bit with him just might make him get it better, and do you know what I mean? But I can't remember if it does even go into how they met each other in 2 and 3. I don't think it does.
There's a bit. Is it the teacher, Mr. Is it Strickland? Is it him that basically says you shouldn't be hanging about with Doc Brown, or is it someone in his family that says that?
No, it's Strickland that says that.
Yeah.
He says you're still hanging about with the mad scientist. He will get you into a lot of trouble.
He's bonkers, isn't he? He's just bonkers, isn't he?
Aye. Yeah, he's bonkers. But you kind of don't want to do my foreshadowing section just now, but I kind of did foreshadow. He did get into a lot of trouble, didn't he? But so that's obviously their dynamic and whatever. But say Doc Brown in general, what was your take on him? Could you see yourself going along with him?
No, he's probably a bit too mental for me, to be honest. I feel like he grows on me as the film goes on. I feel like at the start he's just totally mental, he's cartoonish in a sort of sense. See their dynamic. I've only watched literally maybe part of an episode or an episode or two, You know, like Rick and Morty. It kind of just reminds me of that a wee bit.
I knew you want to say that. Aye. I think Doc Brown was kind of, I noticed down, he's kind of based on Albert Einstein. His
Aye, that's
appearance and stuff.
his dog's name.
Aye, his dog's name. And he's quite eccentric, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Aye, so he is a bit mental. I don't know if I could be hanging about with him either. He's a bit forlorn. And
I totally forgot about that bit. See with the Libyans.
Aye.
I totally forgot about that part of the film.
Oh, aye, because aye. Cause it's right at the start, isn't it? And then right at the end as well, obviously, when he travels back. But aye, because you forget how he gets back to 1955, and it's because obviously the Libyans.
Can we talk about the end, or will we wait to the end?
Well, we'll wait to the end. I want to go into scenes and stuff like that, mate. So,
okay. I've got some thoughts on the end, but we'll get there.
Okay. Do you know, I think Doc Brown was quite funny, but always, I know I'm going to go into favourite lines and stuff, but he brought a lot of humour to it, didn't he?
He's obviously heavily memed, isn't he? There's loads of Back to the Future memes, and he's like kind of front and center of it. But I don't think. I think he's one of the reasons why the film's probably so kind of well remembered, and there wouldn't be a film without him. Do you know what I mean? He's the one that created all the technology and made it all happen.
I know, yeah, that's true. Do you know what I mean? See, when you think of Back to the Future, what character do you automatically think of? Is it Marty McFly or is it Doc Brown?
Probably Doc Brown.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
I'm saying it's just his hair. His hair's just mental, so it's the first kind of visual thing you have.
Aye, it's just, for me as well. It's just the things he says. It makes me laugh. So obviously their chemistry and dynamic throughout the whole film is brilliant, mate. Do you know what I mean? So I loved it. What's your thoughts on the main antagonist then, Biff Tannen? Did you have a Biff Tannen growing up?
No one that bad, I wouldn't say. It's something I was wondering your take on, because it's some of the scenes that he's involved in and the way he treats women. It's I don't know how it was like viewed in the 80s, like some of the scenes that I'm thinking of, but it's like, see if that came out now, like it's very uncomfortable, just the way he treats like Marty's mum and different things. Like it's definitely not an easy watch.
No, I've written this down actually. It's part of the scenes, but I'm going to talk about it now. This was a PG, and the scene that you're talking about in particular, I imagine, is the one in the car.
Well, there's other ones as well, but that's the worst one, yeah.
Aye, and it's like, oof, that is uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It's like,
and how was that? Obviously, you weren't old enough at the time, but I wonder how that was viewed. Like, was that something that was deemed acceptable in movies back then, or was it always looked at? Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what people's views were on that kind of aspect of the movie at the time.
Aye, I mean, mindsets have changed, in the last 2 years now. I mean, the last 20 years, you know what I mean? So, 40 years. So, I don't think it was deemed okay, mate, to be honest with you, but I think it was maybe a more, I don't want to use the word acceptable, but they could maybe get away with it more back in 1985 with scenes like that. But
I just don't know how to play now, whether that would even be something you could have in the film.
Well, certainly not a PG anyway. You think that would be, do you know what I mean? So, aye, but I've just got he's just a Billy ringleader, you know what I mean? Did you know about Billy Zane's in this film as well? Your best pal?
My best pal?
Billy Zane.
Aye, who is he?
He's one of the Biff Tannen's kind of entourage. He's the guy with the glass, like in the 3D glasses.
Let's have a look.
But he's just because of size, mate. Do you know what I mean? He knows he can bully people because he's big. He's just a certain dominance. So
I totally blanked on who Billy Zane was. The guy from Titanic. Yeah, I was just nodding along there.
I say your best pal, mate. Because you loved him in Titanic, didn't you?
No, he's the worst.
He is.
All right, okay, I see him now. It's
Um,
just, I think what made his character so bad was how George just took it. Like he didn't put up, well, up to a point, but he just didn't put up any resistance at all to the bullying, you know.
I can know, but see, to be honest with you, who was, other than Martin McFly, when he got to 1955, no one was going to stand in his way. Everyone just kind of went, oh, okay, and they took it off him because you knew that he was bigger than them. Do you know what I mean? And it's
interesting to see his resolution at the end of the film and the
he goes through a kind of character development.
But no, I found his scenes very uncomfortable. Like that's something we can talk about more later on. But I don't, and it's like when you're younger, if you're watching it as a kid, you wouldn't really be as aware of what you were seeing. So maybe watching it as an adult, you have a slightly different perspective of a lot of that.
Absolutely, mate. Like I don't remember me as being younger watching this thinking, oh, that's what's going to happen, mate. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like that at all. So also, it's all about how you perceive things. But as we're older, we see it through a more kind of a different lens, don't we? As a more kind of it's demeaning as such. I think that's the right word I'm trying to use here, but
it's not the only question. It's not the only questionable aspect of this film either.
No, I know. We'll come on to that. I don't want to go into two. Like, I've got George McFly and Lorraine Baines, I think her name is.
I wrote it down, actually. Yeah,
but I think George McFly is probably more worthy to talk about. Because we can talk about Lorraine through the film, mate. I don't like Lorraine. I can't stand that character. But I think George McFly, the character who plays him, his name is, I said at the start, it is Crispin Glover. I thought he was phenomenal. I thought he was brilliant in the film, man. I think sometimes the way that he acts through this film is overseen, overlooked because of how good Martin McFly or Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd were. But did you feel sorry for George McFly? What was your thoughts on him?
I did, because he's obviously quite isolated and a bully victim. And both of Marty's parents are culpable of being a wee bit creepy. They're talking about the tree scene.
Aye, he's a peeping Tom. That's right.
It's the bit where it was. Oh no, am I thinking of? Is this the same? Aye, it's like we've ran over another boy or something.
Aye.
So there's also a string of guys doing the exact same maneuver.
It appears that way, doesn't
it? So yeah, that bit of his character was a bit off, but he is quite likable overall, and how like the scenes when he's trying to ask, is it Lorraine? Yeah, the mum.
Aye.
When he's trying to ask her out, and she's just totally ignoring him for Marty, and then he has his kind of obviously his hero moment later on. And it's quite cool to see his resolution at the end in the kind of alternate universe. So yeah, I think he's got some good moments. Yeah.
I've just written down he's the exact opposite of Biff. I mean, he lacks assertiveness, confidence. He's very timid, and just lacks confidence in life. Obviously, with all them adding together, becomes a bully victim. It's a shame. Do you know what I mean? Like that scene. I know I say don't talk about scenes, but that the scene where he's walking down the school corridor and everybody's kicking him because he's got a sign "Kick me" on his back. I mean, I think we've all seen that at school. Do you know what I mean? I think that's always maybe no as harsh as that as such, but it's just a fact of life, isn't it? That's what happens, and there's kind of no escaping it. Really, it just happens.
There's a funny moment to that though when Marty's walking down the corridor with who was he with again? Was it with that was with Doc, I think. And he's like,
That one.
which one's your dad? He's like, maybe you're adopted.
I did laugh at that actually. Maybe you're adopted.
So he's obviously just introverted personality, and Marty obviously played a really important, because although it's his son and there isn't really a lot of similarities between the two, because obviously Marty's got that confidence and a way of speaking to people, and it's interesting that he ultimately leads to his dad being maybe more like him in the future.
I've written that down. I've said that Martin becomes a mentor to George, the kind of mentor that Martin needs from his own father in 1985. So it's kind of reversed in that sense. Okay, we can talk about Lorraine as we go through the film, mate. Unless you wanted to talk about her now, mate, you get something.
It's just in the kind of present day, like the start of the film, she's obviously really depressed, and it's clear she's got issues with alcohol, and she's in like a loveless marriage. But then you go back and there's a bit of foreshadowing. What would that be foreshadowing? No, because I know that's your thing. But there was a bit. No, it was the bit where she says she never did things like, she was talking about her daughter, and she said, I never did things like that when I was your age. And then when you go back to when she was her age, she's like boy obsessed and just basically stalking Marty throughout the film.
Aye. That's true, mate. Obviously, she had a problem. I don't know, demons, maybe with alcoholism, 1985. But if you go back to 1955, when Marty picks up for the prom, she's got a bottle of, I don't know, moonshine or something like that. I don't know what she's got. So the drinking started early. I don't know if that's for the social culture, you know what I mean, or a coping mechanism or something on her part, because she was so obsessed with Marty. I don't know, mate. She just annoyed me through the film, mate, because she just kept on saying the word dreamy. It's like, she's dreamy.
It was I need to get my customary Star Wars reference in, so it was giving proper Luke Leia vibes.
Aye. Did you get the Star Wars reference in the film? But aye.
There was a Darth Vader one, wasn't there?
Aye, Darth Vader. Aye.
But there was a few kind of, so there was that aspect, but there was the bit where when she kisses Marty and she says, it's like kissing my brother, like that. I feel like that probably was a like Empire Strikes Back reference.
Maybe aye.
And there was a less,
either that or you just want it to be, and you've just said aye. That's
I'm contractually obliged to make a Star Wars point, so I'll make one more point. Is I felt when, spoilers for Back to the Future, see when Doc dies in the kind of present timeline. I felt like that was quite like the way Obi-Wan dies in A New Hope, when Luke, aka Marty's, kind of, he can't get to him because of the Libyans or the stormtroopers, and he's going, no! And I felt that was I don't know. When I watched that bit, this is before I was even thinking of like the Empire stuff. I thought that Doc's death was quite like Obi-Wan, like the mentor figure separated. He can't do anything to help him, that sort of thing.
Aye. Can you do me a favour, mate? Could you send me a copy of your contract with the Star Wars references?
I thought they were insightful points. Plus,
no, they weren't, mate.
This was only couple of years after Empire and not that far after A New Hope. So there's a strong chance a lot of it was intentional.
Aye, possibly. Right, okay,
I'll send you it through.
Also, there's quite a lot of key scenes here, mate. I just kind of want you to kind of pick, maybe you pick a scene and then I'll pick a scene and then we can discuss them, mate. So give me one of your kind of most memorable scenes in the film then.
Okay. Just having a wee skim. There's a couple that are in my mind. See, when he goes back in time and he goes to the what do you call it? The diner. But he's talking to his dad, and then Biff comes in, and then Goldie Wilson is there, like waiting tables, and he just looks at him. He's like, "You're going to run for mayor," and he's like, "I like the sound of that." I quite like that scene.
It's good.
And I think it's just after this, the one where he's on the skateboard, and he ends up like getting one over Biff and Co. And I think it's Lorraine calls his what is it? She refers to his skateboard a board with wheels because it's like they obviously hadn't been invented at that point.
It's the kind of palette, isn't it?
Maybe, yeah. So that was a couple of scenes. I think they're within quite close. They're quite close. And well, I'll stop there because I wouldn't want to say any more than steal yours. So that was two.
No. I like the bit where he's in the diner. You get in, you walk to the Hill Valley, and it was like, you got to the cafe, and it was like, they made a quote. You follow a boat. And what are you talking about? His life preserver. He's got a jury on. That was quite good. And he obviously goes, kind of a Pepsi free. If you want a Pepsi for it, you'll pay for it.
Because they didn't have sugarless drinks back then.
No, that's it, mate. It didn't exist yet, mate. So that were good. They were good scenes, mate. And in the diner.
I like the scene. Obviously, see when he joins the band because their guitar player gets injured, and he's just kind of playing, and he's watching his dad like losing Lorraine to another guy, and then he's fading away and stuff. Like that's quite an intense scene. It's like high stakes there.
Aye, because throughout the film, we learn that he's got a picture of him and his two siblings, and because he's altered the timeline, so instead of George getting hit with the car, Marty was hit with the car because he saved George. And then from there, that's how Lorraine was starting to fall in love with Marty. And then, Doc Brown, when he meets Doc Brown, which I want to come on to that in a second. You can see the picture fading as if, it's just a matter of time now. If this timeline doesn't fall back in place, i.e. for Lorraine and George to fall in love, then they wouldn't exist. So the pictures, he always refers back to the picture because, that's given him a kind of time scale of when things need to change. I like because when he gets to 1955, he's in the DeLorean, hides the DeLorean and all that sort of things, and then he has to go and seek out Doc Brown. Does he know? Doc Brown doesn't know him because obviously he's from the future. And I just like it because when he's just as eccentric as he was, 1985. He's got the crazy kind of hat on, and he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm, Marty. I'm from the future," and he just calls him Future Boy, Future Boy, Future Boy, and he tells him that he invented a time machine. He's came back from 1985, and he goes, "Do you know what this means? It means this does not work." And then he eventually, shoves him out, and he tells him the flux capacitor story of how he fell and hurt his head, and that's how he came up with the idea of time travel. And just that look when he opened the door again, as if like, how did you know that story? Obviously, you know, he's not told anybody that story yet. That's what,
Yeah.
But the looks of it, it just no long happened. You see the kind of the plaster on his head. So that was a good scene. I loved that introduction to them. That was decent. Also, I want to. I'll let you. What did you think of that, mate? And I'll come back in because there's a scene with the two again. It's fantastic.
No, I liked it, and I think I don't think I think they like held you off from him believing him long enough, but they didn't like draw it out. Like they could easily have drawn that out for quite a bit longer, but you needed Doc to get on board for them to start hatching their plans. So yeah, I think it worked quite well, and it was cool seeing him when he was younger and how what he eventually achieved was such a big deal for him because he'd obviously had a lot of failures before he eventually succeeded.
Aye, 100%. A lot of failures. The scene as well. I just found the acting here brilliant. So you know when Marty comes back to Doc's house, and then he comes in, he kind of sees the Doc's looking through the video recorder. He's watching the video.
Yeah,
The Libyans are there, and he's basically knows that something bad's going to happen to him. And then Lorraine follows him. Doc opens the door and basically invites her in. Do you know the scene I'm talking about?
aye, she's just like, yeah, I was following you. She doesn't even deny it.
But do you see the look in Doc's face as because he's obviously behind Lorraine at the time, and he's just like just the acting here, mate, is brilliant. The stare is if like you need to sort this out. Yeah, this can't be happening type thing.
Yeah,
It's just brilliant, mate.
it's the dynamic between Marty and his mum definitely adds some interesting notions to the film.
Aye. Other scenes, mate. Obviously, there's two scenes. You spoke about one already, mate, about the enchantment under the sea dance. Forget the band, the guitar player hurts his hand because he's trying to get Marty out the boot. Because that's where Biffany's band of losers put him. And then obviously he hurts his hand and he can't play in the enchantment under the sea dance, which means that his mum and dad won't dance, they won't fall in love, and so he's got to play. So that was a good scene, mate. We had to go on stage and then eventually play Johnny Be Good, which is again another. It's a good tune, mate, and it's always one I always think about this film with because this was I think it's how I first heard the song. I was like, that's a good song. That.
Yeah, it's I love the scene where he's proper rocking out, and then the one that's became a proper like Twitter meme. You aren't quite ready for this, but your children are going to love it. Yeah.
Aye. Just reminded me. You seen School of Rock?
Yeah.
So it's like Jack Black. Obviously, this came out a lot later than this, but Jack Black, when he's playing the Battle of the Bands, he's always kind of one doing the guitar solos and stuff like that, and he ends up getting kicked out. That's what kind of put me in mind.
That'd be a fun podcast.
Oh, that's a great film, man. I love School of Rock.
I've got the DVD actually.
I love Jack Black, mate. I've seen Tenacious D a few times now. They're coming back and all. Have you heard the music? Aye, Tenacious D.
Some of it, yeah.
Aye, that's decent, man. The clock tower scene. Obviously, that's the kind of the climatic end of the film. Well, not the end, but it's getting near the end. What did you make of that then? The kind of race against time before the lightning strike and the clock tower. Were you nervous at all?
Well, I obviously knew I'd seen it before, so I obviously knew he was going to make it back. But even though you know the resolution, I still think there's a lot. It captures the anxiety well because there's so many things that almost go wrong, like when Doc's up on the tower and he can't quite reach, and then he has to like glide down, and it's all done in like the very last minute. So it could so easily have went wrong, and it's obviously that and then the car's not even starting for him at one point, and there's just so much going wrong. The clock tower, that was interesting because it's obviously you do see it kind of earlier on when he, like, both in the present day and in the past as well. It's quite an iconic thing though, isn't it? The lightning struck clock tower. It's one of the bits of the film that I remember the most from the first time I watched it.
Aye, especially where you've got Doc hanging off the clock. You know what I mean? It's a lot of tension. It's quite a lot of tension building because obviously, like you say, from Marty's point of view, the car won't start. Then you've got Doc on the cloak, who's like, you can't get the cables connected. It's what will go wrong. Will go wrong type thing. It was just not going right at all. But even then, Doc was making the scenes quite funny because obviously the acting there, how hanging off the clock tower, then he was sliding down the cables and stuff like that. It was good, mate. So a lot of tension building, but it was still funny as well.
There's a bit I noticed. Do you know how there was a statue next to him? It was like a gargoyle sort of thing.
Aye.
There was a bit where he was pulling the exact same facial expression as the statue.
Aye.
Which was obviously intentional.
He turns round to the statue, which I call a weeping angel. You won't get that reference, Colin. No, it's a Doctor Who reference.
Right. No, I've never watched Doctor Who.
No, you won't get that. Anyway, aye, so
someone will.
Yes.
My children are going to love
it. Actually, it does make the same face as that. It's quite funny. He turns around and goes, so that was good, man.
I made a note of that bit. But I think just see the whole bit with the start in the car, like that's like a relatable experience because you ever been in a position where your car isn't starting or it just doesn't start on the first turn and then you do it again. It's a proper like heart and mouth moment where you think your car's broken down. So even in like normal circumstances, that's quite stressful. Never mind if your family and your own life are at stake.
Well, that's I've had a few times you turn the key and it's like, this is not happening. This can't be right, man.
Always when you're in a hurry as well.
Oh, of course, this doesn't pick the right time ever. But I think the end, this when the car gets to the speed it has to go to
88 miles per hour.
Yes, it's not one of my quiz questions, by the way. Don't worry. And then the lightning strikes at that precise moment in time. It's the car's away to 1985, and Doc at that moment in time, he's dancing in the street, and then you get the fire on the road, which is it's iconic in itself. You think of that, it's like it was Back to the Future.
Yeah,
Doc's happy. I took that. My interpretation of that was Doc was happy, just because one of his experiments actually worked. It was like nothing to this point actually worked. But
if he was to have died at the Libyan's hands, that would probably be a good way for him to go because that was probably going to be his peak accomplishment.
I don't think you could get any better than that, mate. Could you? Time travel? What would be better than time travel?
Do you know you were asking earlier about what's your kind of recurring memory of the film? To me, it's the scene when they first go back in time when they're in the car park. Like I totally forgot about the Libyan part, but just that car part is quite iconic. I think where they go back to not back to the future, they go to the past at that time.
It is iconic, mate. Aye. Right. Okay. We kind of touched on it at the start there, but the end of the film, when Marty's back in 1985, he's obviously went back a wee bit earlier because he wants to warn Doc of the Libyans coming and all that kind of thing. So from that point to the end credits, mate, what was your take on all that? Did you think it was a good ending? Were you surprised at how the timeline changed. I wish your thoughts on that, mate.
Well, going back to the warning of Doc, I thought that was a really emotional scene. See when he's writing the letter, and you're just desperate for him to open it and find out what's going to happen, but he's not going to do it because he's of that opinion of you shouldn't know your future, which is quite a big theme of the film, that you shouldn't know your own fate. But I don't know, the bit where Doc's wearing the bulletproof vest, like I knew he survived because I obviously remember the famous roads scene at the end, but it's just such a movie trope, isn't it? Just somebody's like, how many times have you seen that in a film where somebody's just wearing a bulletproof vest, or there's just something, like I'm thinking of Hot Fuzz right now with the ketchup in the pocket, and it's just such a recurring motif.
No.
But obviously you're glad he lives, but it was quite a cheap way for him to survive, wasn't it?
I know.
No, actually, scratch that, because he'd read the letter, so he did it. Okay, I take that back. Actually, if the bit with the letter hadn't happened, it's very cliched. But because he had that prior warning, actually, that makes sense. So, just forget about what I said. In terms of how things, it's interesting how they kept going on about how, like in other time travel things, like don't cause any changes, like, but he causes a lot of changes, but they all kind of work out for the better. Like his mums and dad are in love. Biff's their lackey doing their washing the car. The brother and the sister are, like, the sister's really popular with boys now, whereas at the start she couldn't get a date, and the brother was working as like a delivery driver at the start. Then he's like wearing a suit and tie and stuff. So it is interesting how everything worked out for the best, despite Doc saying at the end, which I'll find out in the future, like, we need to do something about your kids in the future. So pretty much everything seemed to work out quite perfectly, as what it seemed.
Aye, so it was much better than his alternative past, isn't it? Like, where at the start it was doom and gloom from kind of deadbeats and stuff like that, and now they're all now successful in each of their own path. Going back on the Doc's wearing the bulletproof vest. I'm obviously happy that he survived. I mean, because a film about Doc would never, it's not going to happen. But I was quite surprised he had read the letter after everything he was saying. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't change your future, and you shouldn't have that control. Whatever, no, what will be type thing. It was destined to be that way. But obviously he did read the letter, and he took precautions.
He probably put it off for ages, but see, as 85 was drawing nearer, he was probably starting to get really like, oh, what's going to happen? Like, imagine having that letter and approaching what's your death date essentially, and being like, right, I've got the power to do something here.
Exactly, he's in control. But then at the back of his head, he's like, maybe if I survive this now, then what's going to happen in the future? So by the kind of butterfly effect type thing, by my survival, what's going to happen down the line? You know what I mean? So the character development of Biff was good. Quite enjoyed his comeuppance. The bully turned into the kind of what George is basically. You know what I mean? Back in 1955, he's quite timid. He's obviously he's waxing George's car.
Do you think getting punched once would be enough to cause that development, or do you think there was stuff that happened after that as well?
I've often thought how this. I mean, him getting punched once changes the course of his development. I don't know. It might be I'm obviously just assuming here, you know what I mean, that the embarrassment of being punched off of George then set some sort of alarm bells to everybody else to say that, you know, Biff's just he's nobody. Even George McFly can punch him out. Do you know what I mean? It's so possibly from not just that punch, but what might have happened thereafter, with him being embarrassed that that happened to him, nobody being scared of him anymore. But at the same time, is it enough though to turn him into from what he was to what he becomes?
Do you think it maybe got out to the wider population, like what he was about to do to Lorraine, and maybe that turned people against him as well?
Possibly, mate. No, I thought about that, so it could be. There's a lot of variables in play here. It could have been.
Be interesting to have a wee movie or special set in that timeline to see what changed him, you know, or you might get aspects of that in 2 and 3. I don't know.
No, you need to find out, mate. That is obviously they go back. I'm not going to tell you anything. Go and watch them, mate, because let's say they're good. Obviously George and Lorraine are different characters now. Do you know what I mean? They're, you know, Lorraine doesn't seem to be dependent on alcohol or anything like that anymore. George is a confident guy. He's doing an author. It's obviously he's been his dream to become an author. And then we've got Doc coming in because, you know, Doc comes at the end and says, because Marty's just back. Marty, for him, he's just back. He spent a week in 1955, so he is just back in 1985. Doc comes back in the morning and says he's going to go to the future because he's kids. So that was a good bit of tea, and also that's where he goes.
You'd have a lot of jet lag there, wouldn't you? I've got a couple of thoughts just on this kind of time travel. So the fact that nobody seems to remember Marty in the future, like he was obviously a close friend of George and someone who Lorraine was infatuated by. Like, do you not think they ever look at Marty and be like, our son looks just like that boy from school? Or it's like,
that's why, I don't know, why they've called their son Marty, because of him.
That's a bit creepy then, if you think of it. But the other bit was how it worked. So obviously this time round, like this timeline, how like his parents turned out is totally different than the previous alternative. But if I think back to like the time travel in like Prisoner of Azkaban is like basically it always happened that way, whereas this is more like a total alternative. Like I think it's just a thing where time travel's been done totally different in lots of different shows and films, you know.
Aye, and the Avengers Endgame, they're not poo-poo this as well. Pretty sure they do. I think Hulk and Hulk and Ant-Man discuss Back to the Future, and it's like, to tell me Back to the Future was bullshit or something like that, I think he says, and he goes, aye, pretty much.
I think that's what keeps it fresh, though. I think if every movie and show, like look at Lost as well. If I think it'd be boring if they all did it the same way, because it then takes away that discussion element, I suppose.
Aye. No, I never really thought about it now, like back then. But when I've obviously rewatched it, I'm going, hold on a minute, there's 2 DeLoreans now. There's 2 time traveling DeLoreans, isn't there? In 1985.
Did you always want a DeLorean to drive?
Nah, not really. To be fair, I did want to go and see it. I think there was I don't know about the McCann Galleries in Glasgow, but there was a DeLorean in one of the shopping centres in Glasgow. And then maybe a couple of months later, it was the Batmobile, and I wanted to go and see them, and I never did. So I was a bit gutted about that, mate, to be honest with you. But I go back. Obviously, there was two DeLoreans in 1985. One went back again because Marty sees himself going back into 1955. And then there's that one when he drove it into the shop. You get the drunk guy going, "Crazy drunk drivers." I want to go into quotes, mate. Is there any quotes that stood out to you, mate? I know we kind of spoke through quotes to scenes and stuff, but was there any quotes that you found funny? Because I've got a few that always chuckle me.
How many did I get?
You get one, because I don't want to take my one. We'll go back around the table, but
there's quite a few. I'll go for one at the moment then. So, here we go. When the hell are they? was a good one.
I've got, and Doc goes, "Heavy. There's that word again. Is there a problem with the gravitational pull?" So
that's a good one. It's not so much a quote, but there's a sign where he lives, and it just says "a nice place to live." It's just so understated.
Aye. Going with the Doc Brown again. So see when the scene I was talking about when Lorraine comes in, and before that he's talking about the car hitting the lightning, the rod. He brings him to the model. He goes, "You'll have to excuse the crudity of this model. I didn't have the time to build it to scale or paint it."
And it's brilliant, yeah.
It's pretty much perfect.
Oh, it's a great one when he sees his Uncle Joey when he's a baby and he's in his crib, and he's like, "You better get used to those bars, kid."
And of course, mate, we can't go without saying Biff's line. Why don't you make like a tree and get out of here? So
it doesn't make any sense.
No, that's because he's daft. He doesn't.
No. That's why it's funny that it doesn't make sense.
Aye.
There's one is like, who the hell is JFK? There's other ones as well. I've got the tree one down here. I'm your density.
I got that one as well, mate. You're my density. I mean, destiny.
See. Quite a lot of them we've talked through. I think most of the other ones I had. All the other ones we've kind of mentioned as we went through.
Aye. Roads, where we're going, we don't need roads. Aye. So
that's a line that always kind of stood out to me. Like when I watched it back in like 2011, like that's maybe the one line that I always kind of thought of if I ever thought of the film.
Aye. Obviously, we're kind of over there. Well, now I'll try. Got a few things to do, but it wouldn't be a podcast if I didn't have a foreshadowing section, mate. So I've got a few things I would like to kind of bring up to you. Did you got some foreshadowing as well?
Yeah, I've mentioned one or two already, but I'll let you have your say, and if there's anything extra, I can add it at the end.
Right. So one I've got is at the start of the film, we see a representation of the actor Howard Lloyd hanging from a hand of a clock from the film called Safety Last. No, I don't know this film. I've done my research on it. This foreshadows Dr. Brown or Doc Brown hanging from the clock tower. So there's a foreshadow there. So what have I went here? I've said it already. Strickland tells Marty if he keeps hanging around with Doc, you're going to end up in big trouble. So that is a kind of that's what did happen.
In Little China.
But okay, yeah, Big Trouble in Little China, which is a podcast that we've done in the past. You can check that out after you listen to this. What foreshadowing did you get, mate? Did you?
Yes, I did note a few bits down. Let's just see if I can find them. There was a bit where if it was Strickland, he said basically you've got no future, which was kind of foreshadowing of like the whole film being called Back to the Future, like you kind of got no future. I mentioned the one about Lorraine never doing things like that when she was that age. You see the clock tower quite near the start of the film where he's talking to his girlfriend's dad. Trying to think if there's any. Obviously, you see different. There's a question I wrote down. Is it ethical testing the time travel on a dog?
I know, mate. Honestly, it was. I didn't enjoy that, but I might say, see after he says you're going to in big trouble, Marty says, "Well, history is going to change," which you know it did.
A lot of the other ones were quite obvious. It was ones that was like dialogue between Marty and Lorraine, where it was like, what was it? I think it was her dad. It said your parents are probably idiots too. If you ever have a kid like that, I'll disown you. But it's like most of this film is foreshadowing in a way because he's literally in the past seeing his parents when they were younger. So like, it's not so much a foreshadowing section in this one. I think the film is just all about foreshadowing.
Aye. Also, the bit where Marty skateboard hits the case of plutonium, and then the news report in the background is saying that the Libyans have taken it.
Yeah,
but the plutonium is actually in Doc's house. Anyway, before we go on to, because we've got a wee section that Paul isn't here tonight, but Paul wanted us to discuss something. We can't not talk about this, mate. It's Back to the Future, Marty McFly's theme, Huey Lewis in the news. What a song, man. The Power of Love.
Yeah. It's just kind of total 80s, isn't it? The same way in like Karate Kid, you've got the songs in that as well. It's just it captures like an era, doesn't it?
Aye. Huey Lewis actually
was Ferris Bueller, was that the 80s as well?
Aye, Ferris Bueller, mate.
Yeah.
Aye.
What's the song at the end of that? What is it? What's the iconic song at the end of that?
Oh,
you know what I mean? Right at the end of the film.
I can't remember now. I know they've got Bow Wow Wow. That's in it as well.
It's annoying me now.
You need to go and find out, mate.
But yeah, it does it. I think for me, music's one of the biggest parts of enjoyment of movies. Like, there's some movies that we've talked about it before, like films like Baby Driver, where the music is like one of the biggest characters in the film, and it kind of just captures I suppose the feeling of the film and the character of Marty at the start.
Huey Lewis actually makes a cameo in the film as well. He's the guy at the start, and he goes, for the band audition, and he goes, "No, too loud." That's actually Huey Lewis, who does that.
James, talking about music, one of my favorite songs is in what we're reviewing next week.
Pulp Fiction next week.
Son of a Preacher Man. What tune?
Well, you said that last week, didn't you, as well?
I'm excited.
I can tell.
Yeah.
So Power of Love, man. Other good songs. The Earth Angel, it was in the Enchantment of the Sea dance, trying to be good as well. And when he gets to 1955, Mr. Sandman's playing in the background as well.
Can't believe we haven't mentioned this, but it's a pretty good year they went back to, 55.
Aye. Hopefully it'll be 56 soon enough.
We can only get away with that because Paul's not here.
You better not edit that out. Right, okay, so I think we'll kind of move on. Paul had a wee section that he wanted us to talk about. Let me go and grab it.
We often slag each other off here, but Paul's still done the artwork and the editing and this section where he genuinely, you could hear him on the voice recording and the Seismic script chat. He's sounding pretty awful, so hats off to Paul for keeping up the good fight.
Aye, cheers, Paul, mate. We do appreciate it, mate. All your hard work in the background. You've got the flu and that. So thank you very much.
We
Right.
normally slag each other off when we're not here, but he genuinely is ill. So
No, we haven't slagged him off yet. So he is, you know, this is.
no, I said we normally do.
Aye. Time to change. So Paul gave us 4 questions. They've not had time to look at these at all, mate. So the first question is, so I'll ask you, then I'll give you my answer.
Okay.
So the first question is, if you could go back in time to a sporting event, where would you go and why? So what sporting event would you go to and why?
Okay. So we've obviously been alive for Manchester 2008 and Seville 2022. So I'd pick going to the Cup Winners' Cup final to see Rangers win their only European trophy. I think that would be a pretty cool one to go to.
Aye.
Hope I've not stolen yours.
No. I was thinking about.
That's not something I pre-prepared. Just when you said it, I was like, well, being close twice in my lifetime, it'd have been cool to actually see them bring home the trophy, you know.
Aye. Well, I was at the game in 2008 against St. Petersburg. Obviously, we lost 2-0 that game. But never really in the game, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
My brother got tickets for against Frankfurt and Seville, but because of work commitments, I couldn't go. But I would still go, even though I know the ending of it. You know what I mean? I would just still go to live the experience. Obviously, going back to 1972 against Moscow Dynamo, I could go back there with you, mate. But for differences, I'm going to go and just go to Seville, mate, and see us lose because of Aaron Ramsey bloody penalty kick.
I was going to say, so there's no Scotland Cup triumphs to write home about, but even then, you wouldn't have wanted to go anyway.
No chance. Can you pay me to go?
Alternative ones, maybe going to like a game at we talked about recently the 2002 World Cup, so like seeing that kind of prime Brazil team would have been a cool experience. Actually, imagine being at Liverpool, AC Milan, Istanbul.
Oh aye. I'll go different as well, mate. I'd like to have went to seen the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Patriots at the Super Bowl a few years back.
Okay.
So the Eagles are my NFL team, so it'd been good to have witnessed that.
Cool.
Okay. Second question: if you could meet someone from the past, who and why?
So is this someone that's like no longer with us, I assume?
It doesn't specify. If you could meet someone from the past, who and why?
So this is more of a
I assume
personal...
it's no one who's longer with us. I mean,
this is more of a personal one rather than like a celebrity. But my middle name, I don't know if I ever talked about this. My middle name's James.
Good name, mate.
Which was after my mum's dad, who died before I was born. So part of that kind of namesake thing. And I never knew either of my grandpas. Like they both died before I was born. So I think that I'd probably pick that, particularly because I've heard a lot of great things about him from family and stuff. So I'd probably go with that.
Okay, man. I'm going to go down kind of personal history. I'm going to go with Alan Turing.
Okay.
So Alan Turing is obviously
I know this.
Who is he then?
He's the like Enigma code.
Aye, so he broke the Enigma.
There's a movie about it, Imitation Game.
Aye. I'd like to have. He's also.
It was he decrypted like the Nazi communications during the war.
Aye.
Yeah.
So he was the head of Bletchley Park. Kind of where kind of GCHQ is now, kind of thing. He's a mathematician, but kind of computer scientist as well. Obviously, he managed to decrypt the Germans' Enigma code, so he could work out where I was getting, where we were targeting the bomb essentially. But why would I meet him? Simply because he's a smart person. They'll love to have kind of picked his brains just to see how he thinks, man. You know what I mean? So I do a lot of stuff on Alan Turing. There's a thing called the Turing test, which is the kind of the AI, and AI is massive in this day and age. So I would just like to have kind of picked his brains and just kind of spending I don't know, like an afternoon with him, like just learning.
Yeah,
It'd be amazing. So
that's cool, man. I was just thinking of another one, kind of going back to the sporting analogy, because he is no longer with us now. I think meeting Walter Smith would have been pretty cool.
Aye, mate.
I've got an autograph from him because my auntie used to work on the ferries in Dunoon, and she got his autograph for my birthday one year. And my mum and dad were actually on holiday in France, and they were at like a table next to him, which was quite cool.
When I was younger, I used to always go to Ibrox before they set off at the away games, and I always used to leave Ibrox. Then I was always getting the autographs for the players, and Walter Smith was one of them. So my dad took us, so that was good, man. So I got his autograph as well, but I never actually kind of had a conversation with him. But it'd be good to, good to have a conversation with him. Right, okay. Third question then: would you go forward in time and see what your future / fate held?
No.
So would you go? Same here.
No, that I would, because if you found out specifically when something bad was to happen, you would just spend your whole life like fearing it. Like, I much prefer just to live in the present.
Aye. Nah, go back to the past, but I would go to the future and see because I would just overthink things. I would just be like, no, this. Do you know what I mean? I just don't like the idea of knowing things are going to happen.
Also, I used to, I don't know if you've had the same perspective in our job. Like, I used to think when you got to like in your 30s, you would love to go back and do it all again. I genuinely would not want to do school again, particularly the way it is now with social media, etc. Like, I'm quite happy to leave school time in the past.
But if you were to go back to the past, you wouldn't have social media.
No, but what I mean is, if I was to do school now,
right? Okay.
If I was to be in school now, the way it is now with social media, I don't think I'd want to do it. How do you feel about that?
Nah, I'm the same, mate. I just can't like social media. Like
we use it.
I
could easily not use social media if we didn't do the podcast. Like I could quite happily delete Facebook, Twitter, Instagram if it wasn't for the fact it's used for a genuine purpose in my life. But I think that's different. That's conscious use. That's using it for as a tool versus just the addiction aspect.
Aye, I mean, I go on Facebook, that just a scroll, mate. Do you know what I mean? I just scroll.
Doom scroll.
Aye. And I don't probably post anything now. Do you know what I mean? When I was younger, I was like see, going back to what I wrote like 13 years ago on Facebook and all that sort of stuff, you have to cringe at it, man. Do you know what I mean?
I do like a cleanse. See the Facebook memories, I go through them each day and I just delete so much stuff. I'm like, I don't want to see that.
Nah, I don't, man, because I quite like to see it, but I'm like, nah, this is...
No, I delete things, like, see if I've made, like, spelling errors or used, like, abbreviations, I'm like, nah, get that gone. I'm mostly just, like, I like sharing things, like, see, football news or movie news, or I like sharing things like that. Things I'm interested in that I want other people to check out,
Aye.
But nothing major.
Okay, last question then. If you could change the outcome of anything by interfering in the past, what would it be and why and how?
So if I was to change something that had happened?
Well, by change the outcome of anything by interfering.
By interfering? I don't know if I would, to be honest, because I'm quite a believer in everything kind of happens for a reason, and like I don't really know if I'd want to go back and change anything in particular, to be honest, because when you make mistakes and have bad experiences, you learn from them, and that's how you grow in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a bit of a boring answer, but that's kind of how I feel.
I was going to go down a personal route there, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go back. I'm going to refer question 4 to question 1. If I could change any outcome of anything but interfering in the past, I would ensure that Aaron Ramsey hits the penalty in the back of the net. Rangers win on penalty kicks.
How would you ensure that, though? Shine a laser pen into the goalie's
I don't
eyes?
know. What would
Do you
I
know,
do?
it's not being bizarre that Sam Lammers was on the bench for them that night. That's well done.
Was he?
Lammers was on the bench for Frankfurt that night. See if you look up the lineups.
Oh my days.
He's got a winner's medal.
Honestly. Sam Lammers. I forgot about him, but thanks, mate, for bringing him back up again.
He's on form right enough. He's on form.
Well, he can keep on form, and he can pay a big get the money back on him anyway.
So you're going to
change it. I don't know how I would do it.
Are you going to invasion of the body snatchers?
Good film. I don't know how I would do this. I don't know how I would interfere, but that's why I would change the outcome. The Rangers would win that cup.
Fair enough.
That's fair. That for that point of view. I was going to go down another point of view, being like a personal, but I'm not going to do that. But your answer was a bit more kind of how it happens for a reason. At least, Paul, I've given you an answer, mate. Okay, so
no, that is my answer. Like, I don't really see the point in.
I don't think Paul would accept that, mate. I think you'd on your case, to be honest with you. You
we'll see what he says.
Aye. On those 4 questions, though, if anybody wants to take part in this and we put this episode out, then by all means, give us your answers to the 4 questions, and we'll put them on the description of the YouTube link as well when we post it. So it'd be good to hear your thoughts and comments on things that you would maybe want to change, or would you like to go into the future and see what your future up for all of that. We're coming to a close now. We've been on for a while, but Colin, you've given me and Paula a quiz for the last 2 weeks, so I thought to myself, there's no guest on tonight, there's no Paul tonight. Do I give you a quiz for yourself to play against yourself? So I thought, yes, I'm going to give you 5 questions. I've got 6 in case of a tiebreaker. Obviously, it's a joke. There's not going to be a tiebreaker, but I'll give you the 5 questions. And you can see how well you do. They're quite easy questions.
Nervous?
Nah, they're easy, mate. They're easy. Right, question 1 then. What time is on the clock at the start of the film when he visits Doc Brown?
Oh man, I wrote it down, but I'm not allowed to look.
So he also gets into the Doc Brown. He set his clock so 25 minutes.
So is this the time when his alarm goes off, or is this the time at the very start?
No, is it the time when he enters the Doc's house? What's the time on the clocks? They're all set at the same time. Mm-hmm. All the clocks in the room are at the same time. What is the time on the clocks? There's a particular scene in it where the one's a digital clock. All the rest are analog, I'm sure.
I can see it.
Are you looking at your notes?
I'm going to forfeit this question. I'll explain why.
Okay, mate. So
no. I just kind of looked towards my living room, and my peripheral vision caught the first note on my notepad, which was the answer. So I'm going to be completely honest. I knew it was 7 something, but I'm not going to take the win.
Right. Okay.
It was 7:53.
Aye, 7:53.
I'm going to be completely honest and say it caught my eye, so I've closed my notebook.
Well done, mate. Appreciate your honesty.
That was
Paul wouldn't
honesty
do
there.
that.
That was honesty there.
Paul wouldn't do that.
I was in the right ballpark. I knew it was like around about 8 o'clock, but I knew
Aye.
it was more the 7 side of it.
Okay, question 2. Who does Marvin call during the Enchantment Under the Sea dance?
Who does he call?
Who does he phone? Who does Marvin phone?
Who does he phone?
Aye.
Does he phone the guy who broke? Do I need the guy's name?
Yes, that's why I said who.
Oh, it's
Who
the
did he
guy.
phone?
It's the guy whose name's in the band's name. No.
So what's the guy's name?
Again, I've written down the name of the band.
He doesn't say the name of the band. He says the guy's name.
Nah, not got it.
Oh, he's hit the post here. He phones Chuck Berry.
Yes. Yes.
He plays Johnny Be Good. That new sound you've been talking about.
Hmm.
So, that's Chuck Berry phone. So,
see if we were going by the rules in the Simpsons quiz, and I could check my notes, I'd be two up at this point.
But there was no rule set in place, mate, at that point in time.
Fair enough.
Right. Okay.
See if I can get one right.
Question 3. What is the name of the local diner where Marty encounters his younger father and tries to convince him to ask Lorraine to the dance? What is the name of the cafe, exactly?
Oh man! Look, I've literally written all these things down, but they're just not in my long-term memory yet. I've not done enough retrieval practice. Is it really obvious? Yeah.
Nah, not really.
Nah. I'll know as soon as you say it, that way.
The answer is Lou's Cafe.
It's a bit boring, isn't it?
Aye.
You said this was easy.
That's what easy we got the answer in front of you. Right, question 4. What is the name of the shopping mall where Doc Brown experiment with the DeLorean takes place at the beginning of the film?
It's the same every one. I've got it written down, but I've forgotten what it was. This is torture, man. It's I'm sure it begins with an I. That's probably wrong though. Nah, not got it. Struggling here.
Okay. The answer is the Twin Pines Mall.
Yes. Yeah. My
'Cause
notepad would say that.
Because when he gets to 1955, he knocks it over.
Yeah.
And then goes back
as of most of them, as you say, once I know the answer, I know it.
Question 5.
Can we use the DeLorean and go back and do this again?
If you want, mate. Question 5. What is the name of George McFly's favourite TV show?
Oh, is that the one they're watching at dinner? Is that the one they're watching in the dinner scene where Marty's saying this is a classic?
I can't remember. But he tells Marty this line because he's trying to organise him to meet Lorraine, but he says I can't because I'm watching my favourite TV show, which is, he says the name of it.
Oh, it's something really nerdy, isn't it?
Of course.
Nah, I'll just accept defeat. It's they're all like just out of reach.
Science Fiction Theatre is the name of the TV show. Now
that is annoying because all 5 of those things I had actually noted it down when watching it. I just haven't seen the film enough times to proper lodge them.
Yeah, you ballooned every penalty over the bar here, mate. Every one went over the bar. You've done a Harry Kane. But I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself, mate. I'd actually had 6 questions written down, and I've got the easiest one to last. Right. Marty scares George by saying he is Darth Vader, but what planet did he say he was from?
Oh, it begins with a V, doesn't it? Sure, it begins with a V. Because it's nothing to do with Star Wars. It's like. It's like something like Viridian or something like that.
Is that your final answer?
That's all I've got.
That's incorrect, mate. It's Vulcan, which is a Star Trek reference.
I'm not that into Star Trek, so that'd make sense.
So you've had 6 questions, mate, and you've got every one of them wrong.
You know what? Is this my post-match interview?
So how do you feel then?
I might not get any right.
How do you feel, Colin?
I might not get any right, but I was looking for the right things. I had all these things in my trusty notepad, but the rules have changed. The new rules that have came in are making it more difficult for these up and coming teams, you know. Climate change, all that, you know.
That's plenty.
If I just take it, it's a movie I really enjoy. It's not a franchise I'm a genius in, so I'll take it. It's a learning experience. Yeah.
Aye, we'll do Mark Warburton, mate, and we'll learn from it.
Yeah.
We'll learn from it. Right, okay. If you have made it to the end of the podcast and listened to our rabbles, and we thank you very much. I don't know how you managed it, but you've done it, so thank you. Before we do finish up, I just want to kind of go back over some housekeeping. So you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. You can listen to us on Spotify, YouTube. You can also watch us if that's going to tickle your fancy. Apple Podcasts and all other places you listen to your podcasts. Help us get Gary and Mike. He needs one. So buymeacoffee.com/Seismic Cinema. Also want to kind of go back over. So the last couple of pods we done was last week. We done Good Will Hunting. So that's currently out just now. It was out this morning. So it's sitting at, I think, 40 views or so on YouTube at the moment. So that's good. So keep it coming, folks. If you could tell everybody about
42.
42. You could tell everybody, that we're on YouTube and like and subscribe and do all those things, man. Because we want to see the podcast grow. Before we did Good Will Hunting, we did Seismic Soccer 6. We had the boys on from Me Needed Roads. Some good topics of interest there. Next week, we are reviewing another classic. We are reviewing Pulp Fiction, which I was going to say The Invisible Man, but Paul is hopefully going to be here next week. If he recovers in time from the flu, he is going to be hosting that, and hopefully you'll see a couple of guests on that as well, but there's nothing confirmed yet. If you want to become a guest on Pulp Fiction, then drop us a message on said platforms.
Can I give a wee statistic there?
You can.
42% of our YouTube, or 42% of the people watching the YouTube videos in the last month have not subscribed. Thank you to the 58% who have, but 42% have not subscribed so far.
Yeah, so if the 42%, if you're part of the 42% club, then could you please just subscribe, hit the like button, subscribe button. It does help our channel grow, and we want to grow, don't we, Colin? We want to get out there and that.
And something that I always thought is, thought about 40 odd views. It's not a lot when you look at the big hitters on YouTube, but see if you're packed 40 odd people into your living room and sit and watch your podcast on the telly, it suddenly doesn't seem so bad, does it?
No, if you think it that way, mate. Think of the positives at all. Yeah. But I think that's us, Colin. Do you want to say anything else before I sign off with the Seismic Cinema motto?
No, because that was the only other thing I was going to say. So
I knew you want to jump in that, mate. I just knew it.
No, let you do your thing.
Gracias. So we are Seismic Cinema. We believe in the power of escapism. We hope that you've enjoyed Back to the Future episode. And thanks for listening and watching. Bye.
Ciao.